Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier with another Paper 2 presentation with a focus on the League of Nations. And in this one, a specific focus on that question that asks if one source proves another wrong. Now I know I'm forever saying that this paper is your friend, and I know that it's not always fair when it's you that has to sit the exam and not me. And so I have to add that you do also have to think about the sources and what the questions ask of you. But that comes with practice. So do make sure you get plenty of practice looking at past questions. And remember, they don't have to be past League of Nations papers. All past papers will give you the practice you need. So with all that said, this past question that we're going to look at really did require some thinking if maximum marks were to be achieved. Now I have on a previous presentation urged you to quickly but carefully read the background information provided. It is provided to help you, and there is direct help for this specific question. Just note it for now, and I'll pick up on it later. Here is the question and the two sources. Now some basic points repeated from my non-league presentation on the same question, or the same kind of question. You need to see what source G has to say if you're going to be in a position to assess whether source F proves it is wrong or not. What could source G be wrong about? What are its key points? I also said that the provenance of each source, including their dates, would most likely be important. Well, in this question, they are critically important. And remember, a source always has an author, a message, a purpose, and an audience. And these factors are also very important in this particular question. Finally, I also said that I think it's useful to circle key words and add the words or not to the question, so that the question would read, does source F prove that source G is wrong or not? Do you see how this helps you focus? Remembering that proof has a high bar to pass over. Having said all that, the route to better marks, ultimately to maximum marks, is to always explain your reasoning with references to the sources, and whenever you feel it's appropriate, add your own knowledge. Now let's carefully look at source G. It says Japan was greatly provoked. This is an opinion, not a fact, and can be disproved, as source F suggests. It says Japan must, before long, expand somewhere. Better Manchuria, it suggests, than Australia. But this is also an opinion. And it says that Japan's control of Manchuria means a real block against communist aggression. Again, an opinion, not a fact. And we see that the source is a letter from a lecturer at Cambridge University to his friend John Simon, the British government minister in charge of foreign affairs, and it was written in 1933. I'll come back to his friend later. So I think my first move would be to use my knowledge of the topic and bring it to the content of the sources. We know that the Mukden incident was staged by the Japanese. So, source F could be used to counter the suggestion that Japan was provoked. As source F suggests, there was a plan to take over Manchuria, and much more. Look at the opening statement on source F, outlining where Japan's best policy lies. But it also suggests that Japanese expansion was seen by the Japanese as necessary. And we know this to be so. And we know Japan was interested in Australia. So, source F seems to back source G on this point, to some extent. Look at the sentence I identify on the slide. Having China's entire resources at our disposal. That refers to Japan's long-term aims, though we can add it doesn't mention Australia. But source F has nothing to say about blocking communist aggression. So, a surface reading of what the two sources say might lead us to think source F offers some proof that source G is wrong on one account and right on another, but has nothing to say on the third point it makes. But we have to look carefully at the provenance of source F. I know from my knowledge of the topic, and in fact from the background information provided, that the Mukden incident was in September 1931, and that China appealed to the League, and too that the Lytton Commission was sent to China to investigate the matter. And I know that the Lytton report was not released until September 1932. So this newspaper article appears to link the Mukden incident, or the potential for such an incident, to Japanese policy. We don't know when in 1931 the article appeared. So it seems reasonable to suggest that the purpose of the article was to put pressure on the League to protect China from Japanese aggression. The real audience then was not the Japanese readership, but the wider world. Now there is speculation here, but there is also reasoning behind it, and I am showing that I am working without knowing all the facts. For example, the precise date of the article. So I expect to get credit. I'm building marks. But I need to do a lot better to reach maximum marks. Source F is from a Chinese newspaper, which, we are told, claimed to be quoting from a Japanese government document. Note the word claimed. We don't know for sure. So can it be considered as proof that source G is wrong? No, it can't. It could be Chinese propaganda with the purpose of getting the League to act in defense of China. I would underline my reasoning by making the point that if this was a history book quoting Japanese government policy with a reference that could be checked, then, because of its reliability, I would say it offers proof. But in this case, I can't. My final point would be to go to the tone and the provenance of source G, and so its purpose. Japan was greatly provoked. Japan must, before long, expand somewhere. For goodness sake, let, or rather encourage Japan to do so, there, meaning Manchuria, instead of Australia. Japan's control of Manchuria means a real block against communist aggression. A pro-communist source would have used the word resistance. These are all opinions, not facts. Some can be checked. The first by investigation at the time, the third only by historians, the second not at all. The purpose of writing to his friend in such an emotional tone may have been to sway the League's vote on the Lytton Report, which was at the end of February 1933. Again, we don't have a precise date for the source. But my point would be that it's often difficult to prove opinion is right or wrong. An opinion is just an opinion. Again, there's speculation here, but it shows I am looking at the provenance of both sources, including their dates, and I'm thinking about the issue of proof. Paper 2 is your friend, but sometimes you have to be brave as well as confident. As always, I hope that's useful for you. I think my videos on Paper 2 might need a couple of plays to really get the most out of them, but that's up to you. Anyway, let me thank you for listening and wish you the best of luck with your studies. Cheers.